Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Karlee.
I'm Sandra, and today we are excited to have our guest, KJ, in the backseat for this ride. They are hosts of the following podcasts: Series of Opinions, Supernatural Opinions, and most recently, Wayward Parents. So, KJ, I wanted to thank you for joining us for this episode. We're hoping to learn a lot from you because it seems like you do a lot in terms of podcasting.
So many podcasts.
Now, I do have all those right, correct? Like, because I went.
Yeah, those are all
research.
correct.
Okay. So I kind of wanted to ask, what possessed you to start a podcast, entertainment, like all of this stuff? Because I know the way we came about it was very like, I can't say organic, but kind of like one thing after another. So I'm just interested, like, when and how did you get started with podcasting, especially like how it all ends up being supernatural related?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't even discover podcasts probably until like 2018.
Okay.
So all of this, like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And then I started working a factory job. So then I was like, okay, I need something for 8 hours a day. So I started listening to podcasts, and I was like, you know what? I could do this.
Okay.
And I hadn't really planned what I was going to do. Then I thought I was going to do a Grey's Anatomy podcast. And then the pandemic happened. And I was like, okay, I still really want to do this podcast, but I'm not going to do it unless I have friends. So I like reached out to my friends, Faith and Moira. And I was like, listen, I'll do this podcast. I just need the two of you there to be like also involved so that I'm accountable to another person for getting this stuff done. So we started Series of Opinions in 2020. And we did that for about a year, and then we decided to take a break, and we haven't really come off that break yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, when we were going into that break, I was like already like 6 months into planning, I want to do a Supernatural podcast, because I had finished Supernatural and then went to like a 2-day like fever dream where I like planned out a whole podcast.
That's awesome.
I finished the season 15 finale at like 1 a.m. And then I watched Mystery Spot. And then I was like, I'm going to make a podcast. And I woke up the next morning and like spent the next 2 days like planning out. And I didn't do anything with it for like 6 months. And then we were going on to this break with Series of Opinions. And I'm like, now's the time. So we started recording that. And then the Winchesters was announced. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to cover that. And I don't know how. But by then I'd made so many other friends in the Supernatural podcasting community that we all just kind of came together on that. And now we're 3 seasons into Supernatural Opinions, and we're caught up. We're on hiatus at the moment from the Winchesters, but it's coming back in like 2 weeks. And we're excited to see where that goes.
Yeah. So in terms of the planning of it, like that.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew as soon as you said that, I was like, this is my life now. She's going to plan shit months in advance. I'm curious, like, because I think a lot of people don't understand like really what has to happen behind the scenes and how much time, at least I know for us, like the time and effort that's involved in coming up with ideas, reaching out to people that, you know, might want to come on to chat about Supernatural, and like, how are we going to break up? How are we going to lay out, like, say, a season? I mean, your Supernatural Opinion seems to be very much like a recap, rewatch, but then you also intersperse like discussions about certain topics, you know, that you might have been wanting to talk about. So was it initially planned as just a rewatch recap, or like, what was your thought process? And when you say you spent like 2 days, like, were you making tables? Like, what did that look like?
Kind of, yes, on the tables. So those 2 days were pretty much mostly spent like figuring out how many episodes of Supernatural there were. I could have Googled this, but I wanted all the episodes like in front of me. And so I wrote them out by hand, and I was like, okay, so there's 327 episodes. And like, how do I want to do them? Like, what do I want to do with them? And then I was like, well, there's these like overarching like topics that I also really want to talk about. And a lot of those 2 days was coming up with discussion topics. So the way that our podcast works is we do 4 recap episodes where we recap 1 episode of Supernatural per episode. So, and then on the 5th episode, we do a discussion topic, and the discussion topic can cover all the seasons. It doesn't matter where we are in the show, recap wise. Which is great. It does mean that it's going to take us an extra 80 episodes to cover the show.
So you're going to be in like 400 plus episodes then.
Yeah, we are going to hit 400 before the end.
That's ace.
Okay.
I love that.
It'll be 2030 at least, assuming that nothing between now and then goes wrong in my life.
Oh my gosh, you've got it. Okay, so you got it like on a calendar and everything. Like, this is how long we're going to be going. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use to manage.
Oh, they're familiar. We have them as well.
Yeah. So a lot of my 2 days of planning was that, and then a lot of it was also bugging my friends. My friends were just starting Supernatural. On Series of Opinions, we had done a series where each of us picked a show for the other 2 to watch that they hadn't watched before, and we each watched 1 episode and talked about it. And I had picked Supernatural, and I picked season 1, episode 18, Something Wicked, as my episode. And so my friends we'd done that like literally the same week that I finished Supernatural. So they were just starting. They've maybe watched an episode or 2 each. And I was like, I really want to do this Supernatural podcast. Like, but they were just starting out. And then I was like, I had a few other friends who had kind of like stopped watching Supernatural or were like caught up to like season 13 or 14. And I was like, I just need people to agree to do this. And then I like realized that was not, I didn't have enough friends to cover 400 episodes. I didn't have enough friends, and I didn't have enough friends who specifically were interested in Supernatural. Okay. And so I was like, okay, I got to go make friends. So I got onto I had heard that after Tumblr, everyone had moved to TikTok, and I was like, okay, cool. So I got onto TikTok. I created a TikTok account, and I was like, hi, I'm KJ. I want to make a Supernatural podcast. I love Supernatural stuff. And I just started making Supernatural videos. Okay. And by the time that like 6 months had gone by, I had made a few friends who were interested in being on the show. So I was like, okay, we're going to do it. We're just going to start and we'll see what happens. And some episodes were just my friend Meredith and I. And Meredith eventually sometime in those 6 months was like, actually, I would like to do this every single week. And I was like, perfect.
Okay.
Yay.
So once I knew I had at least one person and then I could just make friends along the way to come on for the rest of the episodes, I was like, great. Let's just start this and see what happens.
Aw. That sounds great, though. I mean, we have not even thought about TikTok. I don't even think that's it. So TikTok really is like it's a great place for like, see, I'm a lot older, I feel, AJ, than you. So TikTok, is that a good place to like network and stuff for podcasting?
Yeah, actually, it is kind of, I met August from Saving People Queering Things, and they introduced me to Beth and Jamie from Driving Pictures the podcast.
Okay.
And we just kind of, from there, just kind of made a bunch of friends.
Nice. Karlee, we may not be alone on this island. We may need to start.
No, I'm watching my future, and I'm thinking, how much of this can I outsource to my husband, who is a prolific TikToker? I'd be like, baby, you want to do some social media for the podcast? Get on TikTok, do this. Yeah, maybe that's where we need to go.
Yeah, I would not consider myself to be a great social media person. I gave up on Instagram somewhere around when we hit the beginning of season 2. One day I'll go back and I'll like backlog all of the episodes we've put out since then on Instagram so I can keep posting. But, you know, it is just good. And I think the thing about TikTok is it has that kind of audio component that Twitter doesn't have. So if you have like a podcast, you can, you know, if you're talking about a specific moment in Supernatural, you know, make a video with that moment and put your audio if you're talking over like about it over top, and you're good to go.
Okay. Interesting. That's something we might have to put on our next meeting agenda. So how much time do you think you spend weekly on the podcasts that you're...
Oh my goodness. Way too much. If you ask anybody who doesn't have a podcast. Notes are usually, depending on the topic, if it's a recap, usually an hour and a half to 2 hours just to watch the episode and take notes on it. And then recording is usually between an hour and 2 hours. We try not to go over an hour and a half if we can avoid it, but sometimes the discussion is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you just like to talk to each other and it ends up taking a lot longer.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours of like, it's an hour to 2 hours of recording. And then there's a good 30 minutes usually before we start recording when we're just hanging out on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We had to pencil in additional Zoom dates for that because we were like, we're going to get shit done.
It was really bad when we started Wayward Parents because we would talk for like 2 hours before every single week. And then like we would be, because we are all in different time zones, it would be really late for me. We would start at like 7 p.m. for me, which would be like morning for Beth and like afternoon for August. And, you know, next, if we spend 2 hours, we're not actually starting until 9 p.m. And then it's like 11 p.m. when we're finishing.
Yeah.
So we've learned that we can't do that. We have to not do that.
Oh yeah. We went through those days of being like, we need a timer. That's what we need. We need a timer.
I did do that a couple times and I was just like, you know, I'm just going to set it for like an hour and then wait and see. And then, usually it was be like, okay, we need to try to like wrap up soon. But sometimes it's just, again, I think like you said, too, making friends, you just end up, it's a nice escape too, from like just what's normally going on. So it's catch up time and then it's recording time. And then and especially too, sometimes like meeting new people, it becomes very like fun networking. Like I've never thought networking was fun, but this becomes like a fun sort of networking situation. I want to know, what do you wish someone had told you before you started a podcast?
That once you have one, you're going to want more, which is why I have 3.
So like tattoos.
Yeah. Also, how much time editing was going to take. I'm sure if you are good at editing and you have a good setup, it is quick and easy. But honestly, for us, because we're reaching out and we're talking to just, fans who don't have podcasts, they've never been on a podcast before. They don't have the setups to, always make it sound great. And especially in the beginning when I wasn't using Zoom, I was using another service. Like sometimes the audio was just really hard to work with and editing just took forever. Even now, I feel like it takes a long time.
Yeah. I don't think editing's ever, I've tried to start like taking notes. Like if I notice there's something that I probably want to go back to, like when we're recording, then I'll try to like write myself a quick note, like, remember like, this happened, or this is probably going to have to get taken out or that kind of stuff. But sometimes when you're in it, I don't necessarily catch it, either. I'm like, I got to go back and listen to the whole thing. Especially when we have, normally it's just Karlee and I for a lot of the episodes, but when we do interviews, I kind of really want to make sure I'm sort of listening to all of it. Like sometimes I can skip, like through as I'm editing for an episode where no red flags came up in my mind, but then otherwise I'm like, and then I ask Karlee, can you listen to this before it goes up, just to have another set of ears. Like, does anything seem like it should get taken out or stuff like that? But yeah, editing and all of that, just like tweaking certain things. Yeah.
I have a pretty grown-up job, like my day job. And so I am pretty careful about the kind of jokes that I allow. And sometimes I'll allow them like in the moment. But then when I'm editing, I'm like, oh, that was funny, but I'm not going to leave it in.
Yeah.
Just in case, if someone from my work hears it, I have to do a security check every 5 years, and I have to hand over all my like social media handles. So like,
oh wow,
just so someone is, I don't know how closely they get checked, but I know that they could get checked. And so I want to make sure that anything that I'm putting out there is, reasonably even keeled.
Well, very good. Very, very good. Very responsible of you. I don't think we've done.
we don't have those kind of restrictions. We're allowed to be awful.
But there are also just certain like aspects of fandom that I don't want to be involved in. I made that mistake early on. In the first, I want to say 6 months that I was podcasting. I, put my foot in it on Twitter a little bit. And for 2 days, some Winsa shippers made my life awful. For like a solid 48 hours, my Twitter was a hot mess. And I was like, that was unpleasant. I would like to avoid doing that again.
Okay. Because I think it's, I know fandom in general can be very shitty sometimes. Like, it's just, there's a lot of inability to kind of, I think, just listen to another person's point of view and just kind of take it as that and not a personal affront. So it's interesting. And I guess you can't really avoid it, right? Like being on, providing all of this sort of like information and like opinions, opinions are going to differ.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like when I named the show, I really did just want to match it to a series of opinions. But as we've gone on, like I have very strong opinions on certain things, but like sometimes my guests come on and they don't share those opinions, and that's totally fine. We've had guests on who like didn't feel like they had seen any evidence of Dean being bi, and like that was fine. I was like, okay, like if you listen to what we've said in other episodes, maybe not this one that we're currently recording, but other episodes, like we've talked about some incidences where we think that that's a really clear reading. But you still, you can look at our reading of it and just disagree, and that's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to get mean about it, right?
Thing, you can just, it's an opinion, and you can just go, well, I see it this way, and it's open for interpretation.
I think as long as your opinion isn't in some way like harmful, go ahead and have it. Whatever it is, it's good as long as it's not harming anyone. And and there definitely are some opinions that can be harmful, especially when we're talking about like queer identities or in this fandom, incest is a pretty there's a big group that ship incest, and like the implications of like being just chill about an incest ship is heavy for some people.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to ask too, like, because talk about discussions and the conversations that you've had with, your co-hosts and other guests on there. I was very interested in some of those because I know you've had things where you've talked about like the boys' inherent white privilege, like road tripping around the country. And I listened to one of your love languages on the characters. I thought that one was really great. I think we're going to probably do something kind of sort of similar to that. But I wanted to know, like, what were some of your favorite topics to discuss about Supernatural?
I mean, the love languages one was so fun to do. And that one came about really organically through TikTok. I'd met Julia, who's one of the guests, who since like pretty much left the fandom, but was around a lot when we were doing season 1. And we had just like made a few TikTok comments back and forth on each other's videos about love languages in a particular episode. And I was like, hey, I want to do a whole episode on this. Like, please come on. And like, that was so fun to do. Another favorite discussion topic I had was we just did like a headcanons episode where I just had a few people on to talk about headcanons. Yeah, I have that one listed actually, because I was like, what are some of your personal headcanons about Supernatural? That was one of my questions. Like, is there, because I guess to me, like headcanons, I kind of, I'll get them a little bit confused over time. Like I'll have to try to remember, like, what is my headcanon about a certain character, but it hasn't necessarily been, out and out stated or reflected or mentioned. So Karlee and I will have discussions a lot because we do a lot of fan fiction too. And we're like, did we see this on the show or is this a fan fiction thing?
That happens so much. Yeah. So much. And I'm like,
and there are definitely some things in fandom that have become fanon. Like they are just like accepted more or less universally.
Yeah. For, so I guess too, like your headcanon. So do you consider seeing Dean as bi a headcanon?
That's a really good question.
I told them they would be questions like that.
I just thought of it since we were having this discussion.
I don't personally see it as a headcanon. Okay. I see it as like I don't know where I draw the line between like interpreting the text versus like a headcanon. But to me, there is a difference, and I couldn't say what that difference is, but to me, like Dean being bi falls into like an interpretation of the existing canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I feel there's enough evidence in canon to back me up on it.
Yeah. I think, Karlee, I mean, I think that I've kind of been leaning towards the he's bisexual. I'm of the headcanon that he's bisexual, but maybe like hasn't like come to terms with it like on the show, and almost like maybe he's dabbled and maybe he hasn't, but like that's like my kind of interpretation of that. Karlee, I feel like, are you of the mindset that he's not, or because we've talked a lot?
No, I'm of the mindset that Dean's quite a hedonistic person, and I don't think he would draw arbitrary lines like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like, it's not so much that I'm like, yes, Dean is bi. I'm just like, I think he is, because I don't think he truly has a preference. He's in it for a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's with a man or a woman is utterly irrelevant to him. So
okay.
Yeah, I would also just like to clarify, like I default to Dean as bi, because like that is like kind of like the most common phrasing of it. But like anything under the queer umbrella is totally fine. I'm also bi, so like I just kind of like I'm kind of like, yeah, that is the thing. But like I honestly, like, if people are like Dean Winchester's gay, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, like that is a valid interpretation as well if you want to. But it's like anything under the queer umbrella.
Fully gay though, because I've
definitely seen that before.
I feel like I watched 15 seasons of a show where he fucked pretty much anything in a skirt. So
exactly. And I think that like Cassie and Lisa exist.
Yeah, I would not fall all the way over and be like, no, he's definitely gay. Like,
but there are definitely people I've met who do have that like interpretation, and I think that that's great. Honestly, as long as we all agree he's not straight, it's all good.
Yeah, that's it. It's all a personal interpretation, isn't it? It's as long as we're not out here going, you're wrong and your opinion is wrong and you deserve to be hated for your opinion.
Exactly. As long as we're nice about it.
Yeah, and I guess my like in my mindset, the reason I think that like he may be bi but may not have ever like acted on it like full on, I think might be because of the most wonderful parenting by John Winchester, and that there's a lot of baggage on top of it already, but then you add this what does it mean to be a man sort of scenario, and like that's I guess where my headcanon kind of like fits that into the the 15 seasons that we were kind of given for his arc of a character for Dean. So that's that's probably kind of mine. So is there a headcanon that you will die on a hill to protect? Like if you were having to go into like a debate with somebody, is there any headcanon? Or are you pretty much like
I mean, I'm pretty like willing to go with the flow for the most part, but the headcanon's probably like the most near and dear to me. It's so silly, but it's the Sam Winchester and like loves like plants. And he had plants with Jess, and it's that he and Cass started a garden post season 15.
I love that so much. Oh my god, that's
gosh. Now wait, you've got to like explain this one to me now. So I will say right now, I am not the like I'm the Dean person. Karlee's Sam. The Sam plants. Explain that to me. Like where is that in? Where did you see like little somethings of that made you come up with that?
So it kind of started with I wanted to do a supernatural rewrite, and I was really like I wanted to like have a little bit more Sam and Jess at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Not a ton because I was gonna kill Jess off. It's a fairly canon compliant-ish fic. So yes. I was like, okay, like Jess has to die to get all this stuff in motion. But I wanted Jess to be like a person. And so I was like looking, like I was pausing the pilot and I was like looking at the different things in their apartments. And I'm like, they have a lot of houseplants. And I was like, what if those are Sam's houseplants?
Okay.
Also, I feel like I've like maybe improved this slightly with the addition of the Winchesters into the canon universe. We recently learned that you could put demons into plants.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And like I feel like Sam would learn how to do that at some point.
Okay.
Feels very like Witch Sam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you like the Witch Sam? Is that like
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah.
I kind
I'm
of wish
nodding
that
like you can see me.
I kind of wish that they had done it sooner. And also just like I just really feel like Sam would, after so much like death and destruction, really like to just grow something.
Nurture something. Yeah. Oh, I'm so in for this. My head's gone. Like, it's all the way out there with this beautiful little image, and he's a garden, and it's sunny, and it's so fucking cute. I love that so much.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm fully on board. You sold me on that one. 100%. Sam loves plants. Yep.
Are there any I touched a little bit on how much Karlee and I hate John Winchester and his parenting, and we had an episode, Battle of the Dads, where we were like, which one's the better dad, John Winchester or Bobby Singer? And there was like no contest. There was no contest with that. And I think I was just listening to Bad Day at Black Rock. You and your guests were talking about all of the secrets that John keeps from the boys. And I know that's something that Karlee and I have hammered on quite often, and how much it isolates them from even the hunting world at such a young age. Like I was going back and really watching it and thinking about it, and how they really didn't even know about the hunting. Like the hunter world was really kind of kept from them for his benefit. Like overall, like thoughts on John, like in general.
Yeah, I think John is a super complex character and a super bad father. Just generally. I think something I maybe wasn't super willing to like look too deep into before the Winchesters was the idea that John could be more than just the bad father. And like that him being I was really worried when we got the Winchesters that they were going to excuse John's behavior, and that has not been the case. They've done a really good job at actually setting up some of the things that we see John do later, just in like little ways that John reacts to different things, even
like
now.
the obsessive behavior, right? Like I immediately clocked the obsessive behavior with like how he was intent on finding out what happened to his dad. I'm like, boom, what happened to Mary? How did that happen?
He's
like,
obsessive. He's violent. And something that I think is really interesting about John in particular is like he could have just let the kids go and live with literally anybody else, and they would have had a more stable life. Bobby clearly was interested in the job, and John just like can't let that happen. Like he has this like pride in being a father, even though he's doing such a bad job. But he's also just a character who's in a lot of pain. Like John's whole plan is he's going to find the thing that killed Mary, and he's going to kill it, and he's going to die doing it. Like he does not have a plan for living past that point at any point, but like, especially by the time we get to season 1, it's very clear that he doesn't plan on surviving. And like, that's really interesting too. Like if John had somehow managed to find the yellow-eyed demon when the kids were young, like John's plan was still probably the same, was to die killing the thing that killed Mary. Like he just has no interest in living without her. And I think that's a lot of pain for a person to have.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm fully with you. He's a very, very flawed, very damaged person, but he at any point could have given his children a better life, and he chose to keep them with him and keep dragging them round on his vendetta. I hate John just so fucking much.
His disowning of Sam when Sam wants to not be a hunter is just so awful.
Yeah.
And the way he expects Sam to be the one to repair the relationship, you know, like,
oh yeah,
Sam never called, Sam never reached out, and it's like, you were the parent and you said don't come back, so he didn't. Like,
yeah, you closed the door. Like phones work both ways, my guy. Yeah, we have a whole episode on this. Also, we also have a whole thing on this after a listener contacted us and was like, so here are my thoughts on John. And we were like, cool, we'll discuss your thoughts on John. And it was basically me going, I see where you're coming from, but no.
Yeah, I would say John apologism is one of the things that, aside from like blatant like racism or homophobia or whatever, that I, like if I see it on any of my social medias, I'm going to fight you. Like generally I'm pretty easygoing. Like we can have a difference of opinions, but John apologism is one that I will generally fight people on. just because I think it's really dangerous to ignore the fact that John is an abusive father. Like, those children are in an abusive situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I know a lot of people are like, there's evidence of John hitting, but that's hitting them. It's not really explicitly in canon, but even just the neglecting them, leaving them alone for days at a time at such a young age, that is abusive.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that people's inability to recognize that makes me nervous.
Well, yeah, because it says a lot about
just,
the society in general, like too, like what's considered abuse. Like, you know, like it's like there are many, many forms of it. And unfortunately, I think the boys got all of it,
Most
like
of
in
it,
some form or another.
Even if you don't have children and you don't have any children in your family, you aren't around a lot of children, you probably know at least a child peripherally. And, it would be nice if you could just be like, these are also abusive, and like acknowledge that, no matter how good looking you might think Jeffrey Dean Morgan is, or how redeemable you might find him for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
I will say,
interact with.
I will say our lovely listener who keeps in contact with us was not a John apologist whatsoever. She was just offering a different opinion, and it was really welcome. It was really valid, but I'm just like, no, fuck that guy. No, you cannot redeem him in my eyes. He sucks.
Yeah,
so
he's
hard.
Awful.
Terrible parent.
I also find it interesting too, like you were talking about, how John didn't have an exit plan and was just like, I'm pretty much clocking out after, I figure out what happened or how I've avenged Mary. Do you feel like he had differing viewpoints of Dean and Sam too? Like, do you think he expected Dean to maybe like fall on the sword with him, but like expected Sam to still have a life outside of that? Or do you think, like, talking about the boys in general, because I know I get so upset seeing how little of a childhood Dean was given and how he had to parent and take on a lot of the emotional weight of it as a child. And I see a very like, almost like just a difference of what each son, what their life trajectory was going to be, I guess, in a way. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that one.
I have a lot of thoughts actually on how the boys are raised, and what John's kind of like plan was for them. I think it changed over time. I think when the kids were really young, John did kind of want them out of the way. And I think as they got older, John started to realize he did need more of a plan. And I think when Sam left, before Sam left, John's plan was for both of them to be there when this showdown goes down, and maybe they live and maybe they die, but they're adults, so he's done his job as far as he's concerned. And I think he definitely expected Dean to be with him up to a point. I don't really know, I can't remember if it's actually stated in canon what the like kind of trigger point was for when John's like, oh no, I actually have to like be as far away from my children as possible, to the point where I'm not going to call them and pick up the phone and tell them anything. I'm just gonna let Dean wonder if I'm dead or alive. Which is also horrible.
And then not pick up the phone when my youngest son calls to tell me that my oldest son is actively dying. I'm just gonna
ignore that phone call.
Ignore the call, not check my voicemail, just be fucking in upset. Fuck John Winchester. Carry on.
Sorry, Karlee.
When my oldest son calls me in tears because something's haunting the house where his mom died, I'll show up, but I'm not going to tell them that I'm here. I'm just going to like lurk in the shadows and not communicate with them. But yeah, I think that after Jess died, I think when they did meet up with John again, John maybe realized that Sam was also willing to die for the cause. And I think then plans sort of maybe changed again, which is why he reaches back out to them for the last like couple episodes of season 1.
Okay.
I think my vibe is that he kind of expected all of them to go down with the ship. Like they were supposed to be as invested in this vendetta because it was your mum, guys. And then obviously Jess died, and he could get Sam on board with like, oh well, what about Jess as well? Yeah, I think the end was.
And I do think that Dean had a genuine interest in vengeance for Mary, but Sam just clearly doesn't. He has no attachment to Mary. Like she's a photograph, she's a story. She's something that he's
stick to beat him over the head with.
Yeah, he's never actually had her. He has no memory of her. like she just is a thing that other people have that he doesn't. He's a thing that John and Dean both miss in his life, but once Jess dies and that loss is real for him, as much as it is for John and Dean, I think that is when like John's like, okay, yeah, we're all on board, we're all doing this. And then Dean kind of comes out of left field and is like, it's actually not worth dying over.
Mm-hmm.
When in John and Sam's minds, it totally was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any, because I always think about this, do you think that John learned right away, like what Sam's part in all of like the apocalypse and Azazel was? Do you feel like he learned that early on, or do you think maybe it became something that he, you know, maybe when Sam was a teenager or whatever? Because I just find that to be like the ultimate bit of information that should maybe be given to your son, you know, especially if it comes to the point where he's getting ready to leave, go to college, won't have you there, you know, to protect him. Yeah.
We talked about it though. Telling Sam that would have got in the way of his tantrum.
I know, but I'm still
He was
saying,
invested in that tantrum. He was committed to the bit.
I want to know, like, do you think it happened? Like, did he piece all this together right away? Because I've heard that you've like read the accompanying John Winchester journal, which I have not. And I don't know if that's stated in there. And if it is, like, is that something you agree with?
Really early in the journal. In the journal, weird stuff starts happening to Sam when he's a child. Like Sam's like a chronic nightmare haver pretty much from the start. But when Sam's about 7, he almost gets kidnapped by one of his teachers, and there's a hunter following Sam around, trying to kill him, kind of like Gordon Walker style. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Sam maybe kills a psychic that John knows. John leaves Sam with a psychic, and he and Dean leave, and he comes back an hour later, and Sam's sitting on the front porch, and his psychic friend is completely dead. And like Sam has no idea what happened. But like kind of the theory is either that a demon killed the psychic and left Sam alive for some reason, or Sam was involved, or Sam somehow killed this demon at age 7. But that psychic friend of John's had been in a coma and then suddenly woke up out of the blue, like nothing happened, just to talk to John about Sam. And he used the phrase special child. So the first instance of the phrase special child was used when Sam was like 7 years old back in like 1991.
And so this kind of stuff too was just not even given like to Dean either, right? Like none of that. Okay. Jesus.
Yeah. Dean ends up committing a murder because Dean is like 11.
Okay.
And that hunter that's following them that thinks that Sam's like supernatural and or whatever is like gonna kill Sam. So Dean kills him. He's 11 years old. It's really traumatic for everybody.
Oh gosh.
It sounds it. Jesus.
And like it's like literally like a month of 1991 is like this whole like saga of Sam like being special. And so like if that is, I don't know how much of like, you know, because some things in the journal like do directly like conflict with canon. So like it really depends how much you want to accept the journal as canon. So I'm not sure if that was like the intention that Eric Kirby had when he wrote like the season 2, like if you can't save Sam, you have to kill him, special children thing. But I definitely think it was before. Like I think that John knew that for a while, maybe not everything, but definitely knew something. And I always think about in like the episode where John dies and like Dean is like in a ghost form and Dean like smashes the glass off the like table when Sam and John are yelling at each other. John then like really it's like his last words to Dean are like, if you can't save Sam, you're gonna have to kill him, because John didn't know that Dean was a ghost, and he thinks that Sam threw that glass with his brain.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's interesting.
But yeah, I definitely think, I don't know if I would like have an exact time, but I do think, and I always kind of like posited part of a theory that like John went missing on purpose in season 1. And I think maybe part of the reason why he went missing so close to where Sam lives is I think
was to have Dean go after. Do you think it was because
I think he wanted Dean to reach out to Sam.
Because heaven forfend, we allow our child to have a normal fucking laugh.
If you're going missing on purpose, you can choose to go missing wherever you want.
Yeah.
The last place you were could be anywhere you want it to be. And he chose somewhere that was like within driving distance of Sam's college.
Yeah, and if he couldn't make the concession to actually reach out, he knew Dean probably would. Yeah. The manipulation, just that part of it is just so beyond irritating to me. Like even the one mention where I think it might be in Home, or maybe it's early on in, even before that in season 1, where Sam didn't even know that Dean was the one that took him out of the house. Like,
yes,
I think
Home.
John was fine with like making the rewriting of the story be like, oh, well, you know, John got them all out, when really it was Dean. And I'm just like, it just makes you wonder, you know, how much he manipulated. Well, I know he manipulated Dean a lot, but just how much of the manipulation just to keep them in check, you know.
Well, yeah, and if you look at like Something Wicked, where like Dean as a child doesn't listen to his father, he just goes out to play arcade games for a couple of hours while Sam's sleeping, and then Sam almost dies, and like John basically uses that for the rest of Dean's life to be like, hey, remember the last time you didn't listen to me and your brother almost died? Like, you have to do what I say or else something bad happens to Sam. Like, it is just manipulation of the children.
That whole thing with Dean carrying out baby Sam, that makes my teeth stand on edge. I have children, and there's like 6.5 years between my kids, and when my youngest child was born, I wouldn't let his brother hold him unless he was sat down with somebody. There's no way. It like 2.5 years older than Dean, and I was like, sit down, and and I'm gonna be right here and do this. I wouldn't have just handed him his brother and gone, get out.
Yeah,
makes my teeth itch. I hate it.
Yeah, and just like, and like the fact that like Sam hasn't really fully heard that story, even though it is like the origin story of like the crazy things that their dad's life mission is based off of. It's just like that we're not allowed to talk about anything that really happened to Mary. Like, we're not allowed to talk about what Mary was really like. She's this idealized mother figure, and both, I mean, Dean less so, because when you're 4 years old, you think all adults are perfect all the time. But like, just the revelation that they didn't have the perfect marriage, because I mean, that doesn't exist, and the revelation that like Mary was like a very different person than they grew up believing. Evidenced
by when she comes back and goes, sorry, I just don't feel like I could be a mom, guys. But oh my god, I hate Mary Winchester as well. I just don't like the Winchester parents.
I actually don't. I actually kind of like Mary as a character. I think she's interesting. I mean, Samantha Smith obviously, you know, is a little bit older. She's aged between the pilot and season 12. But like, the reality is that Sam and Dean are older than her when she comes back. Like, her children have out-aged her. And so like, she, you know, basically like, it's like she went to bed and her kids were 6 months old and 4, and she wakes up and they're in their 30s. They're older than she is now. Because Mary's 29 when she dies, which is horrible. But also just like, it turns out that a lot of Mary Winchester's like housewifing was just like never real either. Like, a lot of her like home cooking was like from the store. She can't actually cook, and you know, like she's a character who like we were all led to believe like was your like stereotypical housewife character, and turns out she's like super bad at all of that stuff. And I think that's interesting. I do think that her parenting leaves something to be desired. But I think that's like an interesting part of her journey. I think it's very different than like John, who, you know, just like actively chose not to be a parent. I think if Mary had stayed a parent, you know, eventually she would have had to make a change. She would have had to stop pretending to do all this stuff that she can't actually do. But she would have, you know, evolved with her children, as opposed to just like showing up and her children have become adults and she's not clear. But she also can't treat them like adults because she is still their mother.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's an awkward situation.
Yeah, there's that it's I guess too, like you said, her being just immediately like plopped into this new scenario. But like all I'm thinking of when she's saying I need time, I'm like, don't do this to them. Don't leave them again. Don't do this.
Super hard for them, obviously, because they have wanted their mother their whole lives, and now she's here and she's not ready for them.
And I think I think the one thing Supernatural does really interesting is how they give Sam and Dean different traits of both of their parents, and how like the running away part and, you know, not wanting to deal with your feelings, and how it happens in different ways for Sam, and how it happens for Dean, and just, you know, the Winchester side of it and the Campbell side of it, and how you can see like Hunter versus Men of Letters and all of that, like how that's kind of like inherent or almost like stuck in their DNA. Like, but like for me, Sam is very much like a Men of Letters, and then Dean is very much like the Hunter aspect of it. But yet they'll still share different characteristics of each of the parents, like depending on what's going on. So I do find that very interesting. You were talking about the Winchesters too. So has the Winchesters, it sounds like, because I know when Karlee and I were talking about the Winchester advance, we're like, oh God, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this about John and Mary? I don't want to hear about John and Mary. I don't want to hear about John and Mary. And then I watched the first episode and I was like, Karlee. It's like, I kind of like, I think I like it. You know, it's like, and what I hated even more was that, like you said, they were giving me John's backstory, where I don't think I can't be an apologist where I can't reconcile what he did as a father to Sam and Dean. But I understand how, like you said, how it built up from what he was like younger and then what's happened. I am so interested in your thoughts about how you think it's going to go in the Winchesters, where John just doesn't remember any of this stuff anymore. Like, when do you think that's going to happen? I think it's got to happen soon, like for them to do a reset or something, because I feel like that's got to happen.
I think it'll be in the very last episode of this season.
Okay.
So, you know, there's going to be 13 episodes this season. We've seen 7. So we have a few more to go. But I think it'll be right at the end for, you know, the maximum amount of stuff to happen between now and then. I think it depends too on if they get renewed for another season. If they do get renewed for another season, maybe they'll leave it more open and they won't. But really nothing at this point has actually connected to canon. There's no indication of anything matching up at this point. But everyone keeps saying it will. Everyone who's involved keeps saying that it will match up eventually. And I think at this point we just have to hope that it will. Not even trust, just hope.
You've probably seen it floating around that it's the Winchesters is set in the AU with
I have
AU Dean, and I was fully on board with this. I was well in with this. I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then Sandra went, but Dean's there, and I was like, oh fucking hell, yeah, he is. It's that theory out of the water.
Yeah, my thing is, I think what's going to happen, I mean, I feel like for added effect ratings, whatever you want, I feel like we're going to see, I feel like we might see Cass, we might see Angel intervention. I mean, who knows? We could even see a Chuck thing, but I feel like it's got to be something. No. I feel like it's got to be something where I just feel like that meeting at Slaughterhouse 5, like, because I was saying to Karlee too, like in the beginning of the first episode, like they technically did meet for the first time in front of Slaughterhouse 5, and that was like their meet cute. But then they technically meet again, like in that way, like kind of in front of it. I said, so I feel like that's like going to be a recurring theme that maybe sticks. But
it's like not the whole story.
But then I'm like, does that mean Mary's gonna still know some stuff? And I'm like, that would like really piss me off, because I'm just like, do they all get wiped? Like, does John get wiped? The questions.
I am very curious to see what their plan is to handle that. I have no idea what it's going to be. I like every time I think I can maybe formulate some sort of speculation, I'm like, nope, no, I can't. It's unclear at this time.
It's so frustrating because I mean, like the Winchesters, it's not great but it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like on its own.
It's entertaining.
And it's, you know,
it's a little piece of the supernatural universe.
But I don't want to put it in the context of the supernatural universe, because then I see all the inconsistencies and I'm like, oh yeah, no, you could definitely do that with, yeah, no, that's definitely ghost possession, definitely works like that. And you can talk to the girl. I think you've confused demon possession for ghost possession. I don't want to put it in the supernatural universe because then all that shit annoys me.
Mm.
But it's still got that comfort of the universe that you know.
It's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those little like voiceovers from Dean really like make my week. Even though a lot of times I feel like these Dean voiceovers are really fake. I don't know, this might be an unpopular opinion, but like sometimes I'm just like, Dean Winchester would never say that, but here he is saying it.
Yeah, I totally feel like they just had Jensen just like read through these lines for 15 minutes and we'll just find a way to like fit them into whatever we're doing with. So even though, it almost doesn't. It don't feel
real.
It doesn't sound like Dean. That's the thing to me. Like it's kind of weird. Yeah. I'm like, did Jensen forget how to talk like Dean? Because it's a little too narraty. And I feel like, I understand he's narrating like 3 or 4 sentences, but you can still make it be Dean.
The things he's saying in the narration, they don't sound like things that Dean would say. They don't sound like how he would say them.
Yeah.
You know, and like, but you know, we don't know where this Dean is. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know what his life is like.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts about where he is? Because we had thoughts, and I know a lot of people have thoughts. Yeah.
I haven't really like solidly made thoughts, but I have some thoughts about where I kind of want it to be. I do kind of want it to be like heaven or stuff, and I want it to be heaven like between when Dean dies and when Sam dies, because that's really the only way I can justify Sam not being on whatever adventure.
That's where we are.
Oh my god, yes. That was I was totally out for the Winchesters. She got me into it because I was like, nope. I still remember Twitter meltdown Jared. I refuse on principle to watch this fucking show. Absolutely not. And she watched the first episode and she was like, I think you really like it. Please watch it. I think this is how it is. And I'm like, I will accept this if he's in heaven waiting for Sam. But otherwise, that's the only way I could accept it and watch it because I was so mad.
After Sam dies, then like where's Sam? And if it's
where's Sam
dies, then where's Sam? Like that's really the only time I think I'm gonna be like cool with. But like, who knows at this point?
At this point, they can't dare say they're gonna have to make that canon because they couldn't dare say anything else. They couldn't be like, Sam's in like Cleveland or something.
I can't imagine Dean going on whatever quest he seems to be on that seems to be like related to their family without Sam being interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can you imagine it, Dean just being like, I'm gonna go like spy on our parents for a little while and see how that shook out, and Sam being like, nah.
Okay, I feel like I'm gonna do a crossword today or go for a ride.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in the car, and I just don't feel like there's this book I've been meaning to get. I just don't see it. It wouldn't happen.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Supernatural is just one of those shows though that just you end up building your own, storylines and plots and stuff. And sometimes they're a lot better than what the show could even come up with anyway. So I know we've talked about hated characters. Who are your favorite characters on the show?
Obviously like I love Sam. I'm also a big fan of Rowena and Jack.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd say like my other like big 3 characters. Eileen's just difficult because I was like literally talking to one of my friends yesterday who's watching the show for the first time, and they just met Eileen. And they were like, well, like, how long till I see Eileen again? And I was like, end of next season.
It's a minute.
I was like, Eileen's like really only like in like a few episodes. Like that's actually like really, that's a bummer because she's a great character. I think she's a better hunter than Sam and Dean. But by quite a lot. Like if you think of all the times that Sam and Dean have died or had to rescue one another, she doesn't have a partner and she can't hear the monsters coming. Like by default, she must be better than them.
Yeah. I do agree. She's got her shit together.
Right, but you are. Yeah. She knows what's happening. She knows.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't have a Dean to rescue her. So, and she doesn't have she can't hear like things sneaking up on her. So most of hunting takes place in the dark. So really she's down like 2 senses. Like she's got to be tough and adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Karlee, do you have any questions? Because I've kind of like I've been running it for a little while.
No. Nope. I'm gonna throw you right under the bus. No. The only question I had, and it was like a while ago when we were talking about like things in headcanons that you accept, and especially Dean being Sam's parent. One of my, I don't know whether you call it like a headcanon or like like fanon or something like that. But me and Sandra both agree. We think Dean did I'm trying to think how to word this. Adult things for money when he was quite young.
Yeah,
because John fucked off.
I also believe that happened.
That makes me sad.
Yeah,
I want to meet one person who's like, no, it was fine.
That definitely didn't happen. No, and I think there's like a good amount of evidence for that as well. I think like Dead Man's Blood It Is, where Dean does like the broken down car routine.
Yeah, he's like bait. Yeah.
There's also a deleted scene. I don't know if it's a deleted scene or just like a script cut from a season 14 episode where Dean like says that he used to do like a similar thing with truckers all the time. Like his dad used to make him do that. And like, I don't know. I just think I also agree that like John clearly was leaving them alone for way too long. And like, there's just, you got to get money somehow. And I definitely think that Dean, engaged in some illegal activities to get that money.
Yeah. I know there was, I find it interesting too, like the more I rewatch and you even if it's not like something that they, the writers or creators really thought about, like even Dean's like food insecurity, like the way that he eats, like, right. Like, it's like, both I never use it's like, it's so very, very interesting and nuanced, and like it's put in there, but it's like, did you guys really like, are we just the ones picking up on it, or did you guys do this intentionally?
I love talking about how the Winchesters view food because they're different, but they come from a very similar place. Where obviously like if Dean had food, it was going to Sam first. So that's kind of where Dean's comes out more as just any food that exists, he must have.
Yeah.
Even if he could get poisoned by
yeah, just not even I'm in my like teen body and there's mysterious cake. I'm just gonna eat that. But Sam as well. Sam is always about eating healthy, and I think a lot of that is that the food that they did have when they grew up was like not the most nutritious food. It's a lot of diners, a lot of eating out, a lot of takeout. Like it's like eating that for an extended period of time is not good for you either. And that's pretty much what they grew up on. And I think that like part of Sam's like need to eat healthy food is that like now that he's like an adult, he has some little bit more agency over what he eats. He wants the food that he eats to be filling and nutritious. And
yeah, totally get on board with that. We were just talking about that. We covered the Supernatural episode. We were just like, you could poison Dean so fucking easily. Literally, an easiest thing. They're like, people are dying. Let's go check out this couple. Peanut brittle? Yes.
Peanut brittle. I was like, Dean, these could be the people that are killing people, and you're just reaching for their peanut brittle. I'm like, why are you doing that, dude?
And they were eating people like those.
Yeah, but he's just, he just has very, very low impulse control, I think.
Yeah.
But I agree with the food. Yeah.
Sam slowly becoming a vegetarian post cage. Like that is also a thing that I love.
Okay.
It's never really explicitly stated, but like after the cage, Sam very rarely eats meat of any kind, and like especially red meat, like has a pretty serious aversion to. And like by the late seasons, like he's eating like meat alternatives, like not even meat anymore. Like,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I'd never clocked that was after the cage.
It's a like it's a lot. Like obviously Sam's like salad person to begin with before that, but like if you like watch after, like he's just a little bit weird about it. And we have like that scene, I want to say like right after the cage, where Sam's in like Bobby's basement and there's just like meat on hooks just like around him, and like I kind of think that those two things are connected.
That's
I don't
so
know what
interesting.
the meat on the hooks is. I don't really want to know.
Yeah.
I know, because that was always one of my questions about, like, I'm never going to get to a con, but it was always like on my list of questions for Jared is like, is Sam actually fully vegetarian, or does he just hate bacon? Is it just bacon, or is it everything? You need to go up on a panel and ask that, Sandra. Come on, that'll be
okay. I'll try if I ever get the chance. I think the one thing I wanted to kind of touch on before we wrapped up 2KJ was your interest in fan fiction. You said you're working on a rewrite.
Yes.
What kind of fan fiction do you like enjoy reading? And then what's like this rewrite about? And I think I heard mention that you do like reading Transdean. Is that also correct? Or did I get that one?
Yeah, I like trans either of the Winchesters, honestly. Okay. The fic I'm currently writing is a rewrite with trans Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of, so like the two big changes going into like the first episode is that is trans Sam, and then Dean's killed John before the pilot.
Oh wow,
perfect.
So you're just
just like we're throwing everything out the window. It's all gone.
So Sam doesn't know that Sam knows John's dead. He doesn't know that Dean killed John.
Okay.
So they're like on the quest to find the thing that killed Jess and the thing that killed Mary. And also like if along the way we find out who killed John, that would also be great. Like that is also it's on the agenda. It's not like the highest priority thing. And then meanwhile, Dean's like, we cannot find out who killed John.
I could picture that. So do we have any leads on Dad? No. So there's these omens in the other side of the country to where he's buried. We should probably go and look at. That's great. I love it.
Dude's like, yeah, I mean, you know, Dad, he probably worked with someone and they were mad and they just like shot him, you know, like someone shot Dad in a motel room where there was a job. He probably just pissed someone off when they were working a job together, and now he's dead. Don't know what to tell you, Sam.
Yeah. Sauce, dunno. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So are there, I mean, unless Karlee's got any other like burning questions, I was gonna ask too, like, what would you like our listeners to know in terms of like where to find you, and anything that we could like, we'll definitely put your descriptions and things, like your link tree. I think you've got one, so we'll make sure that goes in the description as well. But just like in terms of, because now we know we've got you a podcast wise until 2030. So as long as nothing changes, Supernatural Opinions is going to continue. But yeah, is there anything like in particular you'd like to throw out there?
I mean, obviously, yeah, you can find the podcast anywhere where you listen to podcasts, and Wayward Parents as well. So those two just exist anywhere where you listen to podcasts. On AO3, I'm Supernatural Opinions KJ. And on TikTok, I'm SPN Opinions KJ. Other than that, I'm pretty much editing KJ on everything else. So if you want to like find like my not supernatural stuff, that is where to look. But other than that, like I'm on all the podcast social medias, which are in my link tree, are all run by me. So I'm there as well.
Okay, good. No, that sounds great. This has been really fun. I've enjoyed this. I'm hoping like, you know, I'd love to talk to you again, like thoughts, especially like whenever the Winchesters stuff breaks and like, you know, what actually like, was anybody right? Were we all wrong? Are we all screwed? Are we all pissed off? Like, what are our thoughts and opinions on that? But
we have bingo cards going. So
wow.
Like there's gonna be we're probably gonna be putting out next week for when we were recording this, we're going to be putting out an episode where we look at our bingo cards, and I think we're going to be allowing us to make 3 substitutions each for the last half of the season.
Okay.
So if there's something that's already like definitely not going to happen, we can take it off and put something new in there. Mm-hmm. But like we're trying to get a predictions bingo.
Okay. Is anybody close yet? Is anybody close
I
yet?
don't think so. I think there's a couple of us that have like one or two things checked off, but I don't think anyone's super close.
Okay. And that's part of Wayward Parents, the Wayward Parents podcast. Okay. All right. Definitely going to have to like check in on that one then and see about that one.
But yeah, so there'll be a record of the things that I guessed that were incorrect.
I don't know if we were willing to do that.
No.
How wrong are we?
It's been very difficult, especially because we had no idea what the premise of the show was really going to be, aside from like John and Mary meet and Samuel was missing. Like we had no real premise for what anything else was going to be. So
who do you like more on? Like, do you have a favorite character on the Winchesters that you kind of
Carlos, isn't it?
It's hard. I mean, it's hard for Carlos not to be the favorite, but I am a big Latha fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's delightful. I also think she's like one of the best dressed characters on. Her outfits are always good. Like her and Carlos really are like a little like fashion duo. But honestly, everybody's really great on there. Everyone's there's some really good acting happening over there. Just generally, but I think everyone's great. I'm also a big Millie Winchester stan.
Okay.
And I pretty much have been since like we found out that she was going to be in the show. I was like, yes, I want to know all about John's mom.
Yeah.
And I kind of love her. Like she's just like, she's a mechanic, which is what my mom was.
Oh,
nice.
So, I liked that twist too, because I was totally expecting something else, with that, because I was trying to figure out like the car stuff. So having her,
having her be the car one.
Yeah,
I think it's just so nice.
That. Oh, one more thing. Does it bother you? Season 4, in when Dean goes back in time and meets John at the diner, and somebody specifically says, "Say hi to your dad." I'm like, is that going to come? Like, are they going to somehow like rework that in a way where it's like maybe Millie gets married again or something? Because I'm like, you can't.
That's what
say that. That does not work.
The timeline is really tight between the two. So the Winchesters takes place in 1970, and that episode takes place in 1972 or 73.
I think it's 73. I feel like I thought the Winchesters. I feel like
it's 73 because it's 10 years to 83.
Yeah,
like it's 10 years to the day.
So they don't have a lot of time to figure that out.
They don't have a lot of time. Before the Winchester started airing over on Wayward Parents, we did do like a little like episode on that episode and the other time travel episode and the Henry Winchester episode from Supernatural. And so like when we got to that part, we did theorize all kinds of things. We did theorize that John had a stepdad. We theorized that John had a stepmom.
Okay.
We got a few theories. So far, none of those are looking super correct. That's for disappointment. We were really, really rooting for Millie Winchester to just have like a delightful wife.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm on board with that, but I think the right answer to this will be they forgot that they said that when they did the Henry Winchester episode.
Yeah, I also just don't think that the Henry Winchester as we came to know him, like in the meta letters, just did not exist. That was 4 years later, and they had completely forgotten.
It still makes
nobody
me mad,
remembered
though.
that throwaway line.
It still makes me mad though, because I'm like, you've got to figure that stuff out. Like, if you're going to do that, like, you just need to ask a fan that knows everything about it, and they'd be like, "No, that does not work."
Think any show that runs more than 5 seasons should have a position where it's someone's job to be a super fan.
Or just look at the wiki.
Any show that has more than 5 seasons or has a sequel or a prequel, it should be someone's like job to hire like a super fan to keep the timeline and the details in order.
Continuity. Yeah. Fully agree with that. Just to be like, you said 14 seasons ago this one thing, you can't do that because it fucks it. That's my theory. Nobody remembered that one throwaway line from that one episode.
It was a throwaway line, and
new canon retcon.
Yeah.
I'm fully on board with Millie having a nice wife though.
Right? She really deserves it.
Yeah, she's had a rough go of it, to be honest. Bless her. Yeah, no, fully on.
Maybe
board.
Ava. I mean, they seem to have a little bond in one of the episodes that they were talking about.
Yeah,
stuff, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, Karlee. You haven't watched the last episode, right?
I have not. No.
Okay. All right. So I so want them to watch the last episode because I need to talk to them about things that have happened.
Okay. I will bug my better half tonight, who probably will be fine with it, and just be like, I've been told I have to watch the Winchesters. Can we do it now?
Yeah, because I do like the fact that when they take the time and they have a writer like Robbie Thompson at least like co-write something, I feel like there's some threads that get connected that make me go, yay, somebody's paying attention, somebody's calling something back and, embellishing and making it a bigger part of what it was. So kind of like going back and figuring that out. I really like Robbie Thompson's, like I think every episode he's written.
He's written some really great episodes of Supernatural. He's he created Eileen and Charlie. Like that's iconic.
Yeah.
Like some of the best characters.
Yeah. So I had a lot of hope, I think, before it came, even though I was like, why are they doing this? But then when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, maybe that's not just going to be and
the details that they have kept really consistent, have been important. There was one particular thing I really wanted to see on the Winchesters, which was John's little music box that Henry mentioned in his episode. And like when that came back, I was like, yes, because that was like one of the only things that I really, really like needed to be mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely, that was like, yes. My husband's like, what? I'm like, you don't understand. I'm like, that's so important.
It's the thing.
And I called it. I was like, oh, I bet you it's going to be this. Please let it be this. And when it was, I was like, yes.
Even
Thank you, Robbie.
We were like doing our predictions episodes, I was like, I really want the music box back. And everyone was like, what music box, KJ? Like, what are you talking about? I was like, the Henry Winchester music box. And then when we got to the episode, they're like, oh, okay, yes. Okay, I'm on board. I see what you were talking about like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh. Well, KJ, this has been fun. I would love to be able to like have you back, or like if you'd ever want to have us on something, let me know.
Yes. Fully on board.
You can get us maybe like podcast buddies. I want to keep this connection now that we've established it. Because you've been great and talking about all sorts of stuff. And when we can fan over something that, everybody loves, even if they get, upset about certain things, it's nice to all come back to the fact that this is, inherently it's a fun thing that we all like and discuss. So yes, please keep us in mind. I will definitely follow up with you with usernames and stuff. So if you want to give us an invite, we could do that. Cause I'm a little more on the lurker side. So it really takes me a lot to like get out of that. So, I need to get pushed. I need to get pushed for that.
I'm trying.
It's been great. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, honestly.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're fabulous. Come back anytime.
We want to have you come back. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this episode. We want to say thank you to KJ for coming by, talking about a lot of topics, all things supernatural related podcasts. I think we've learned a lot too and gotten some different opinions, which is always great. But if you want to reach out to us and share your opinions with us, you can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at idling in the letter D Impala. If you'd like to make your voice a mail, check the description for a link to send us a voice message. And you can also find links to our personal socials and our AO3 accounts in the description. And there's a link to my author website, which has my original fiction.
Also in the description, you will find a link to our Ko-fi page. If you feel like you can, if you want to give a little donation and give a little back for all the hard work that goes into the podcast, that would be freaking awesome. And you'll also find a link to our merch store, which we are currently in the process of changing up a little bit. So if you have any ideas for new designs that you want to see, or you want an existing design on a different piece of apparel that we don't currently offer, hit us up, let us know. We want to give you what you guys want, but you'll find those links in the description. So with that, we will say thank you very much for joining us in the back seat, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.